Commissioner, there's been a lot of news with, we mentioned how Starlink could basically just give internet to everyone in rural America, but we decided to spend $42 billion on nothing so far. The other thing, of course, that Elon Musk Ventures are heavily involved in is, he bought X. That's become a big free speech battleground. There's been a lot of news in Brazil where Brazil ordered the site taken down, and I think now it's going back up, but they have to comply with some Brazilian censorship stuff. It's not good. I was wondering if you could speak to the current tech censorship dynamic that's going on, with the Biden administration and how they're approaching speech-related issues online over the airwaves, and what our prospects are there if we have a Kamala Harris administration.
Yeah, I think Brazil, as you mentioned, is really the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this global trend towards censorship. What happened in Brazil is, if you read through Justice de Moraes' 51-page decision, it was issued in Portuguese, but I do have Google Translate, so I was able to at least get an English version of it. I went through that one, and what he said was that he was acting to censor posts on X to prevent, what the justice said in his words, were the incitement of anti-democratic acts. But what's interesting is, if you then read through to see what is the anti-democratic act that the Brazilian justice had in mind, he said very clearly it was people voting the wrong way at the ballot boxes. And he walked through examples in his mind of Brexit in 2016 and President Trump's election in 2016, suggesting that those are the types of negative outcomes, populist outcomes, he said, indicating that those are the ones that should be avoided by censoring free speech on X. And this is really concerning. Again, it's part of a global trend. It's that idea that those in power only want the people to have in their brains news, information, and content effectively that is approved by the very people in power because they want to stay in power. But of course, free speech really is our only hope. Free speech is democracy's check on authoritarianism, on government control. So it's this concerning trend towards saying, we believe in democracy, and therefore we have to censor people in order to preserve it. And we've seen a lot of weaponization over the last couple of years just here in the U.S. So, for instance, there was a number of Democrat representatives, members of Congress from California, that wrote letters to cable companies suggesting they drop Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax because of the editorial decisions that those newsrooms were making. There was a transaction where a conservative buyer wanted to purchase some radio stations in South Florida, and Democrats spoke up and said, we have to shut that down because it could affect electoral outcomes. So there really is this concerning trend. You see it too with the Biden-Harris administration pressuring, jawboning, as we say, social media companies into censoring politically protected speech. And of course, Zuckerberg came out a couple weeks ago with a quasi mea culpa to one of the House committees saying, sorry that we censored Americans over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and Brendan, really quick here, just about a minute remaining. Do you feel any sort of sense of urgency from this current government, our government, the fact that American social media apps are being banned in foreign countries? It doesn't seem as if this is a major concern.
Yeah, it's really surprising. I spoke up, a couple others, but government-wide, I think the State Department was silent as best I could tell. I think the White House was silent. And I think sometimes, saying nothing is the loudest possible thing you can do. I think the American government should have been standing up for X. They should have been standing for Starlink. Because remember, once they censored X, they then took it out on Starlink, which is a separate company, separate shareholders, by freezing their assets. So it's worrying that Brazil did this. It's worrying that America seems like they gave it a pass. And it's worrying that it's part of a global trend that's taking place in Europe and otherwise. We're in the midst of a fight for free speech. And I think it's going to continue here for a little bit.